Where am I now? So, for those of you who don't know, I'm on Zoom, and in this current moment, in fact, I'm going to try right now. We'll see if I can do it. If I can see your comments without turning on the video so that I'm not hearing like myself after myself, right? So we'll see how this works if I can see the comments without the video actually playing. And then eventually, if I ever figure out how to completely silence it, but have it playing, because I feel like even if I turn it all the way down, I can still, like, it doesn't go completely silent. It just goes way, way down, but then I can still hear it. I don't want to hear myself, at least while I'm talking. Okay, guys, I'm so excited for today's training because I was sitting there and we have a bunch of people who run this container. And Dee Dee is the one who does like the posts about reminders and things like that. And she's like, well, you need to give me the title of your training like on Wednesday so that I can make the announcement and the reminder for Thursday. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never know what I'm going to talk about. And so I had to actually like pay attention, like pre-plan it. And so I was like, okay, God, you need to give me like what is our thing. And I totally got it. And then when I went to tell her what it was, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot what it was. And then I had to remember it again. Well, God had to give it to me again. And as if like I have some part of this. I mean, okay, I do have a little bit of part. Okay, so I digress. Anyway, what's really cool about when I told her, hey, this is what we're talking about, I'm like, what was it that God showed me that we're going to talk about? So then I was meditating on that this morning and I'm like, okay, God, like I had it and then I didn't have it and I don't have it. So you have to give it to me. And I just feel like he's so gracious to meet us where we're at. And sometimes we go, oh, God's meeting me where I'm at. Well, sometimes God meets me where I'm at in my arrogance. And he's like, girl, you think you know stuff. And I have to on purpose make you forget stuff so that I can show up and be the one who talks, so that I'm not talking from this place of I know what I'm talking about, because God always knows way more than I know. So I get to just show up and be a vessel. So what was really cool though about when he was showing me originally, like why he wanted this topic, was because um, what, so for those of you new to the container, there's two parts of us. We have a human part and a spiritual part. And those parts are happening simultaneously always, always. Okay. But we're not aware of it. And so one of the things about this container, one of the premises that we talk about in this container, is we have to separate those two parts of us so we know what's going on, so that we can bring them back and integrate. Because over here they're all enmeshed and I don't know what's my spirit and I don't know what's my human. And if I don't know what's my spirit and I don't know what's my human, then I don't know how to regulate my life. I don't know how to navigate from the place of my fullness. So we separate it, we put it into the law, which is the principles that we live by or that we are designed by. Then we bring them back together and integrate them so that we can live by them. And so often in personal or spiritual development, it's a lot of cognitive understanding. And it's exactly what Paul talks about when he says, I do what I don't want to do, and I don't do what I want to do. And what is this? And he said, it's the sin within us. But sin isn't the bad part of me, the naughtiness of me. It's the part of me that isn't aware yet. It's the part of me that doesn't know what it doesn't know, right? It's just the part of me that's out of alignment from the fullness. And that is part of the process, which is why we're always in right standings, regardless of how we're functioning. right? Because the capacity to actually grasp it is available to us. So, one of the things that he was talking about when he was showing me this idea of uh, like how our beliefs get stuck is when we start to realize the how, it's easier to unpack the what. It's easier to unpack the how do I navigate it, right? Because I understand where it came from. So today we're going to talk about how they get stuck, because there's a myriad of different ways that beliefs get stuck. And I think, you know what? I think even as I'm saying this, I feel like getting stuck might even have a negative connotation, but this is how they are programmed. Ooh, way better. Because, guys, you know that our subconscious is a housing unit. It's like a DVD player. Okay. So if I had Disney's Moana over here and Deep Throat, Debbie Dallas Deep Throat, I think that might be two different horns, but whatever, pornography over here, right? Here's what happens. My subconscious, which is the thing that projects and manifests life, okay? If I put in Moana, what's going to play in my life? I'm going to be on the beach. I'm going to be talking to a Hawaiian girl. I'm going to be drinking out of coconuts, right? If I put the porn in, I'm going to be seeing lots of naked bodies and I'm going to be drinking something that's not coconut, right? You guys are welcome. I told you, this is a spicy container, okay? So what I'm seeing out in the world around me is based on my subconscious programmings, okay? And my DVD player doesn't deem it right or wrong, good or bad. My DVD player just says, oh, this is the DVD that's in it, let's play it, right? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today is how do those programs on the DVD player that are playing from my subconscious, how are they created? Because when I understand how they're created, it's easier for me to create something new. Okay? So, one of the ways that this is programmed is now, okay. Sorry, sometimes Lori starts going, yeah, but God, what, like, I see that this is about to come out of my mouth. And God's like, Lori, oh, this is why I have to meet you where you're at in your arrogance and not tell you things ahead of time, because sometimes you second guess. Okay, so here we go. One of the ways that this is programmed is based on a pre-birth programmed pattern, right? So everything that I believe, take it or leave it. That is one thing about this container. I am not right, not by any stretch of the imagination, right? I am not right. What I say is not right. I want you to take everything that I say and you take it to God yourself and say, is this true for me? Is this true for me right now? Is this something I need to embody? Or is this something I set on the shelf? Or is this something that's not for me? Okay. But I came from a place where there was a right and a wrong. There was a very like clear, distinct line between what was good, what was bad, what was right, what was wrong, what was God, what wasn't. And then when I actually met God personally and he revealed his heart to me, I was like, oh my gosh, so much of that doesn't make any sense anymore. But there were some things that were pretty rooted and grounded. And what I started to do was, instead of looking for the ultimate truth, I started looking for, okay, if I was functioning through the heart of love, how does this make sense? How would this make sense? Okay. So one of the things that I had believed in the past was that we're born pure, like we're born brand spanking new, and then we get programmed for like the world, or we get hurt. We are tainted by the world. And what that did was it made me find wrongness with my parents, or the way I was created, or the propensities I had, or like those things. It made me find wrongness with it. And so when I stopped and started really going, okay, God, if I'm filtering this belief through your heart, what would make more sense to remove the wrongness? And basically what he told me was, we come in with a predisposition to attract certain things. Why? Because these are the things that I need in order to become the person that I came to the planet to become, based on what I desire to experience in this incarnation. Okay? Which means that I have 3 other siblings. And when I have a conversation with my brother, and when I have a conversation with my sister, I'm like, y'all are both crazy. None of those things ever happened. That's not how it was. And neither one of them agreed. Now, that was kind of in jest. That was a joke. Of course, their experience is their experience. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, we all were living under the same roof, yet we had different experiences based on what? The propensity that I have for what I see and what I experience. Why? Because all of it sets me up for what God had predestined me for before the foundations of the earth, right? It says in Ephesians, before the foundations of the earth, God knew the good works you would do. Well, in order for God to know the good works he would do through me, and in Romans, where it says all things work together for the good, all things, which means those things that we deem bad can't be necessarily bad from the perspective of God's using them, i.e., the value of them, in order to bring everything, the end result, about in good. Okay. So with all of that said, I believe that the genes in my mom and the genes in my dad, and the ethereal combination of what genes are on and off for the one little egg and the one little sperm that made me, was this cosmic collaboration between my mom's background, my dad's background, my mom's beliefs, my dad's beliefs, and what God allowed for me in this incarnation. Okay. So some of the ways that my patterns get created are based on what God deemed important for my experience, right? Cool, right? Doesn't that take a lot of the, oh my gosh, like some of the places that I act douchey aren't really about me being douchey because I lack something, but it's more about the experience so that God can work through me? Yeah, cool, right? Okay. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is what happened in our life, right? Things that our mom, yeah, let's go back to here. We start getting an experience of the physical from the moment of conception. So now here I am, this little, like, is it an amoeba? I don't think it's an amoeba. I don't think I was an amoeba, but I'm this little one-celled thing, right? The the sperm goes into the egg, and here I am in this thing, and I'm about to start like reproducing more and more, like splitting of the cells, right, to make meat. And I start growing. And instantaneously, because I am and always will be and forever have been consciousness, I am already becoming aware, not a good word. I am already starting the programming process that I'm unaware of, because that's my subconscious, unaware. I'm already starting the programming process the moment of conception, because I am now consciousness as Lori. Okay. So everything my mom feels, I feel. And depending upon your like pre-programmed disposition or pre-programmed needs, right? I may have actually even felt what my grandmother felt. I may have even felt what my aunt felt when she was in the presence of my mom, right? Now, if somebody came to have a different kind of programming, right? Maybe they didn't experience what the people around their mom experienced, they just experienced their mom, right? How far out that experience from you goes is based on what you already were coming to the planet to experience, right? So, but for sure, we experience what our mom feels and experiences. Maybe we even take on some of her thoughts, right? Now, again, all of what I'm talking about today is going to have personal implications, right? Because again, just like I said, we will all feel from our mother, but maybe not everyone feels from their grandmother, right? So this is just the way that we're again pre-designed by God to have the experience that we came to have, right? So just take into account, if I say something about this is one of the ways that beliefs start to get programmed, and you're like, "Ooh, that doesn't resonate for me." Good, then that wasn't one of the ways that you experienced it. Okay, so just know I'm throwing out lots of possibilities. Not all of them are yours. Okay, so so the other way that we get programmed is based on what's going on with our mother. Is she in a place of chaos? Is she in a place of fear? Is she in a place where she is experiencing lots of support and love, right? That changes our energetic programming and our set points, okay? Then I'm birthed, and now I am experiencing everything around me, because the first part of my experience, so for the first 7 years of my life, I am a sponge, right? And I'm just receiving all of the stimulus around me, everything I see, everything I smell, everything I taste, everything I hear, everything I feel, and everything I sense is all going into program. So one of the really interesting things that as I was learning all the things that I've learned to be where I am today, is that our cognitive mind can take in 7 bits of information per second. Our subconscious can take in 20 million bits of information per second, which means, like right now, I'm looking not at myself yet. Out of like the corner of my eye, I can still see that I'm moving. I can see my hat, but I'm actually focusing on those lights, right? But over here, even though I'm focusing on the lights, I see something brown in the thing. Oh, it's the door over to that, right? I can see the darker color of the couch. I can see what looks to me like black, but it's green, right? So I can sense and perceive, my subconscious can sense and perceive all the things, but my cognitive awareness is only looking at one thing. So right now I'm looking above, I'm looking at the door above my head, right? And so even though I can sense and experience, and my subconscious is taking in how my lips are moving, what my teeth look like, how my lipstick is on, are my eyes looking the same way, or like not looking like looking, but looking like, is my mascara the same on both eyes, right? My subconscious is taking all of that in at 20 bits of, or 20 million bits of information per second. So do you see how we can easily become programmed here? And our cognitive is like, oh, I'm drinking this drink, right? And my subconscious is going nutty, bring it all in. Well, the first 7 years of our life, you guys, we don't have any cognitive faculty to reason and rationalize. It's all just, I'm a sponge. And when I take my sponge and I put it on the counter, and there's Kool-Aid over here, and there's wine over here, and there's beer over here, and there's soda over here, and there's water over here, my sponge doesn't have any judgment. It just says, suck up the information, suck up the liquid, suck it up, right? So in 0 to 7, my cognitive is not having any faculty of judgment or discernment or anything. All of it is going straight into my subconscious and programming, not from a place of right and wrong, just programming. Then my cognitive starts to awaken, and my cognitive, based on the programs and how people are experiencing life around me, 0 to 7, I start to have now right and wrong. Like, ooh, that's right, that's wrong. That when I experienced that 0 to 7, it felt good. That didn't feel good. Ooh, that felt like shame. That felt like, and I'm using some words that aren't real, because when I use the word shame, there's a wrongness in it. My subconscious doesn't see the wrongness of shame. It just says, oh, shame. But my head says, shame doesn't feel good. Shame is wrong. Shame is where I'm wrong. It creates meaning behind all of the sensations that I experience 0 to 7. Okay. So let's go back to the programming. Now that we know how all of that's working, let's go back to some of the programming. So I might have had one situation in my life, one situation that my mom said one thing to me. So I remember that, and I think I was 10 or 11. At one point in time, one time, my grandmother said to me, she showed me a Playboy, and she said, this is what real women look like. You know what? And now that I'm saying that, who knows if that's really what happened? This is what I remember. So true or not true, this is what's stuck in my subconscious, right? So one time, my grandmother lays out this Playboy, as far as I remember, and says, this is what real women look like. Well, I sure didn't look like that, right? And so with one sentence, because I admired my grandmother, I wanted to please her. I wanted to be everything she wanted me to be, right? That one moment of time imprinted a belief in me that I didn't look like that, and that I needed to do everything I could to look like that. And so I had a lot of body image issues growing up. I still have some of them, right? There are still times where I look down, and this is one of my practices. I look down and I tell my body I love it, regardless of its size, regardless of its shape, regardless of all of the things. I still love my body, right? So I'm still practicing, but that was one moment of time. Now, were there other things in society that were contributing to that? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't have a cognitive recognition of all of those things. Are they programmed there? Yes. But the one that my cognitive ties in with my subconscious is that one with my grandmother. Now, if that one with my grandmother hadn't happened, maybe some of the things in society would not have stuck the way that they stuck. Ooh, that's where the stuckness is that magnet, right? It might have been that that one point in time created a an attraction spot that then all of the other things in society could attract to. Now, if there hadn't been that one comment, maybe I wouldn't have so much stuckness that I got from society. Or maybe my subconscious had built up so much from society, from my mom's beliefs about her own body, herself, all of the things that maybe when my grandmother said that, I'm like, oh, and maybe that's why that one thing stuck so significantly. And guys, here's the thing. It doesn't matter how it got stuck in order to shift it, but you understanding how it gets stuck helps you shift it, right? So not the uniqueness of how each thing got stuck makes it easier to shift it, but understanding all of the ways that it could get stuck or or programmed is the thing that I want you to be aware of that helps things get unstuck, shifted. Guys, I don't know what it is. It's so funny. Every time I teach on like just like not in a group where I'm coaching, but when I'm just teaching, the energy is always coming up. So I'm burping, I'm hiccuping, but it is the release of energy, which is really, really cool, only kind of annoying when I'm trying to like talk to you guys. And all of a sudden I'm like, but anyway, you're welcome. And thank you for your grace. Okay. So, now going back to like society and how we observe or absorb from the societal piece. If I am chronically in an environment of chaos, that energy of chaos is constantly being absorbed by my subconscious mind, being programmed by that energy around me. So if you wake up one morning and you're like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of having a negative attitude, and you're like, I'm just going to be positive, and like by 10 o'clock, you're irritated and you're agitated. Well, it's because, guys, we are addicted, chemically addicted, biologically addicted to certain emotions, certain energies. We have a set point. And when we go against that set point, we actually go through withdrawals of that energy. So if I'm used to being in a depressed state because that was my norm, when I try not to be depressed, guess what happens? I go through withdrawals from the depression. And then I get irritated and I get agitated. And then my reticular activation system actually starts looking for something that will make me depressed so that I can what? I can get high on that norm, which is depression. And then I look at one of those little puppies on the TV that's like, you know, all like, and they're like, oh, look at all these puppies that like die every day because whatever, and give us your $19 a month. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I feel so good now that I'm depressed again. Right. So when we think about like, well, why can't I just be happy? Why can't I just change? Why can't I? Well, because you have a program running. Right? So does that take you out of like responsibility? No, it doesn't take you out of the responsibility to shift, but it sure does take you out of the blame and the fault of it. It's not your fault. It is your responsibility if you want something different. Do you feel the difference in the energy of those two things? Right? No, it's not your fault. And it is your responsibility. Okay? So should take this spoon out because I keep hitting it on my hat. Okay. So surroundings, the sense and the energy and the emotion of what we're surrounded by. What also sticks us is the way in which information is communicated to us. So if I said, I really love blue cups that I drink my my apple cider out of. And it's just a casual, like, that might be oh, that's interesting. But if I'm like, I fucking love this. I love a blue cup. And I love how my cider tastes in a blue cup. Now, the intensity of that might trigger us in one of two ways. Either one, like, oh my gosh, I would like to experience that kind of yummy. I'm going to go get a blue cup and put my cider in it so I can experience that. Or it might go, oh my God, that bitch is out of control. It's just a fucking cup and it's just cider. Like, she's cray, right? And now there is a resistance. So there's either an acceptance or a resistance. Whereas the first way I said it might have just been that's an option. That's an option in the plethora, right? But the level of intensity in which something is conveyed could, now not always will, but could, tends to shift us on one side or the other. Now, the intensity of that was very like purposeful and I'm trying to convince you, as opposed to if I was like, oh my God, you guys, I fucking love my blue cup. Now it's an elation from me and it's going to be received even differently than if it's intense, like I'm trying to convince you, right? All of that plays into how things get stuck, how our belief systems get programmed, right? Let's see. There's something else. Oh, okay. Then there is the energy where, and a lot of us in this container will probably say, religious surroundings are a huge part of our programming, right? Because we're told something over and 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 over, like Jesus loves you, 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 Jesus loves you. If, however, the energy with which we experience what love is not the same, we will cognitively recognize what's true. So our belief system will communicate to us, oh, we believe that. Okay, we believe that because it's been programmed over and over and over as truth. Yet I've never felt it. So the other running program is, yeah, but maybe not for me, or that's not, maybe it's not really true. But we have two dueling beliefs. One that says, Jesus loves me, that is true. Jesus doesn't love me, or my parents don't love me, or Jesus might love everybody else, but not me, right? And now we have these dueling beliefs going on. And guys, they're in our subconscious. So they're running and we don't even recognize that because our subconscious is unconditional, it doesn't care. It's not looking at right and wrong. So if it throws up both those beliefs at the same time and creates something in our life, our cognitive goes glitch, glitch, glitch. And now I don't understand. And I'm frustrated because there's two dueling beliefs playing out in the reality of my world. And because I don't understand how everything happens, now I'm just confused. Now I'm just frustrated. Now I shut down. Now I go back to my coping mechanisms. because I don't even realize that I can have two dueling beliefs playing out at the same time. From the perspective of, because they're intertwined, right? It's not Moana is playing at the same time as the porn. Okay, all of a sudden Maui and Moana are not doing it on the beach, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is those two beliefs of Jesus loves me, no, he doesn't, actually come together as one projection because they're intertwined. Because the subconscious is just like, oh, bring it all in. And then it gets like this, which is why from the very beginning, we were talking about the separation, right? Everything is all intertwined. Then we create the separation between what's true and what is not true, what I made up in my mind, what I remember that maybe didn't really happen that way, or yeah, that's what I got in my environment, and I am now an aware, functioning human that I get to choose what's true for me. Yes. And so now, once we start to understand how everything is programmed, then we can start separating. Oh, well, what's actual truth based on the law, and what I thought was true based on my experience. And it is in that moment we get to start to decide. I decide what's true. I decide what my cognitive is going to focus on. And as I choose what my cognitive is going to focus on, as long as I'm understanding how it all works, now my subconscious gets reprogrammed. Good stuff, right? Okay, so I'm going to do this. I just realized I can do this maybe. I can go in and I can refresh my page and I can see. Oh, see, but don't talk. Don't talk. And I can refresh my page. Would that mean we don't develop an ego until age 7? Okay, that's so funny. I was trying to read the. Okay. It's not about, so the question is, would that mean, and I'm guessing she's talking about like we get into the cognitive in the moment of or 0 to 7. At 7, I start becoming reasonable, rational, and like functioning from my cognitive. She says, would that mean that we don't develop an ego until age 7? The ego is always there. And when we look at the ego as something bad that we have to undo, really the ego is just all of the programs. It's all of the programs that are now programmed in this human body. That is my ego. There's nothing wrong with my ego. There's like, it's the human part of me. It's the part of me that knows stuff. It's the part of me that reasons and rationalizes. It's the part of me that is desiring to be back to the rightness, my already right standings that I'm not aware of yet. But guys, there's nothing wrong with it, because from the perspective that everything the ego does is in an attempt to go back to my creative design before I had a body, which is understanding that I'm already in right standing. Yeah. So, does the ego develop then? No, it's being developed that first 7 years. The ego is the programming that our human is now aware of. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. And if you need more clarity, please make sure that you ask questions. Comment on this, ask questions, you guys. Let me know, like, what are you curious about? What did I say that didn't make sense? Sometimes I go back and forth and back and forth. And again, you guys, a lot of this container is undoing the cognitive beliefs. Excuse me. So there is a lot of me doing what I do to actually dislodge the energy, right? I don't really care how your cognitive mind is functioning. I want to dislodge the energy and see what comes up into your cognitive mind that then we get to see and process and move through, right? So sometimes the fire hosing or the back and forth or the rabbit trails are all on purpose because it's designed to just evoke in you what you aren't aware of, that God's like, okay, we're ready to see this. So please ask questions, please ask for clarity. And then I will be happy to answer all of that. All right, you guys. So excited you are here today. Thank you for being here. Eventually I'll figure out how to like look at the comments while I'm on here, or maybe I wonder if could I turn this off and then only see the other? Oh, I wonder if that's a thing. I don't know if that's a thing, but I continue to learn every day and we'll get better and better. All right, you guys. I adore you. I love you. I'm so glad each and every one of you are here. And I will see you next week.